Haj Malik El Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X, and his wife Betty Shabazz.
Well, hello, class. This is Professor Levy, and I am here at Ferncliff Cemetery outside of New York City, and this is the final resting place of El Haj Malik Shabazz, better known to the world as Malcolm X. And if you're in my Black Experience class, we're probably reading his autobiography, the autobiography of Malcolm X. And so you could perhaps appreciate how important and significant it is to be in the presence, the last resting place of such a great man. And this is a good place and a good time and a good opportunity to talk about why he was so special, why he is so important, and why we should continue to honor and pay tribute to him in this way. As you know, Malcolm was what we would call an organic intellectual. He dropped out of school in about the 8th grade. He talked about in the autobiography, he told one of his white teachers that he wanted to be a lawyer. And the teacher told him, as a Negro, you have to be practical. You have to be realistic. Perhaps you should learn to do something with your hands. And so with that kind of discouragement for such a young man with such talent, with such potential, to have teachers who didn't recognize what he could become in life. This led him through a journey of crime and drugs and ultimately into prison. But as he says, this is where he had a revelation, a kind of rebirth. And so what we can learn from Malcolm is that life has different cycles and takes you to different places. Sometimes the encouragement or discouragement that you get in life when you find your place, but you always have a choice to decide what you want to do at that point. And Malcolm says that it's in prison that he really started to study for the first time. He was fortunate enough to be in a prison that had an extensive library donated by a philanthropist. And Malcolm said he read everything: history, literature, philosophy, religion, and especially the spiritual transformation that brought him into the Nation of Islam as a practitioner of the Islamic faith, which he took very seriously. He talks about in prison, they would have narrow cells, and they would be the time when they would turn off the lights out for the prisoners. And Malcolm said he would press himself against the bars of his prison cell so that he can get light from the hallway to continue reading. Talked about just reading the dictionary, right, just to build his vocabulary and his knowledge of words. All this we see becomes important later in his career, where he began to articulate the anger and frustration of so many black people in a bold and courageous way that very few people before him were able to do. And so those skills of writing and speaking became very important to his success, to be able to explain, why are you so angry? What is it that about American society and American racism that you're speaking out with? And Malcolm was able to do this in a very powerful, as you saw from the interviews that we're probably watching in our class, still in a calm and respectful manner to the people he was interviewing. So these are some of the things we appreciate about Malcolm today. And also, I think, looking at his life and learning from his examples, during his life, he paid tribute, honor, and respect to those who came before him. He talks about in the chapter in Africa, going to Ghana. And where did he go in Ghana? He went to visit the home of W.E.B. Du Bois and visit Du Bois's grave, just as we're visiting Malcolm's grave today. So he had this respect for elders, ancestors, people who have sacrificed, people who have contributed to society. And he was indeed one of those people. Final thing I want to leave you with, perhaps, is to appreciate Malcolm as an organic intellectual and a critical thinker. Thinking critically means evaluating everything that you learn and being honest and evaluating your feelings. If you have new facts, then you have to reevaluate some of your prejudices. And for Malcolm, one of the biggest decisions in his life was then leaving the Nation of Islam, when he discovered that his leader and some of their teachings, as the way it was being presented to him, were inaccurate. And a lot of people, particularly in political movements and within religious movements, are hesitant to challenge their leader. Right? But to be a critical thinker means if the leader is wrong, if the teachings are not sound, I have to rethink that. And Malcolm had that courage to explore. Towards the end of his life, he left the Nation of Islam. As you know, he started the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which attempts to bring people together, transcending religions. You didn't have to be a Muslim to be a part of the Organization of Afro-American Unity. To broaden his view of race from the narrow American perception. Again, I'm referring to the book where he talks about sitting in a coffee shop in Harlem and a white woman comes in and she wants to talk to Malcolm and she asks Malcolm, what could I do? And Malcolm tells him, get out of it. There's nothing white people can do to help our movement. And at the end of the book, he says, I wish I could find her again, and I would give her a different answer. His transformation of visiting, getting speaking engagements to speak at Columbia and Harvard and Yale. And I think we saw the video of him speaking at Oxford University, debating at Oxford. And then he came to the conclusion that people are capable of change and growth. And you can't narrow people just to their race or to their religion. He expressed regret for some of the hateful and anti-Semitic things he had said earlier in his career. And it's prophetic that he did that because he didn't know that his life was going to be so short. He was assassinated in 1965 at the age of 39. So he didn't even live to be 40. He had experienced death threats and his home was bombed in Queens, and yet there was no police protection. I thought about Ballroom in Harlem there at that time. And so, Malcolm remains to us today a great exemplar of excellence, of true intellectual growth, whether it occurs in a college or developing your mind through your own reading and your own study. So I hope he inspires you in that way. And that if you're ever in the New York area, that you would also come perhaps and visit his final resting place. You can visit the Audubon Ballroom, which is an historic site in New York City, the places where he spoke and taught on 125th Street, and apply these lessons whenever you can to your own life. Hope you're enjoying the course. Take care and be well.